Today in the shop, a Honda Rancher 350 quad.
This is pretty much the worst video ever made.
Napoleon, like anyone can even know that.
Hello my friends, and welcome to Tom's Tinkering and Adventures. Today we're going to be working on this Honda Rancher 350 quad. I don't know what year this is, but I think the 350 was pretty similar from like early 2000 to mid 2000s, so somewhere in that time frame. If you have one, you'll know what you're dealing with. And this is a pretty clean example. Let's take a quick look at it. This actually belongs to my mailman. He always sees me working out here, and he asked if I could do a little bit of work on his quad for him, so I took him up on that. He said he uses it on his property. A little trailer hitch, he pulls things with it. This is two-wheel drive, shaft drive. Engine is mounted, what would you call that, longitudinally? And it needs to have brakes bled out on the front. They are not working at all. The carburetor needs to be cleaned. It runs, but it won't run with the choke off. And he wants to replace all of the cables on it. So I think what we're going to cover probably is the carburetor portion, and maybe I'll do the brakes on the video here. I don't know if I want to cover all the cables because, well, we'll just see. We'll see if I get to that. I don't want to make too long of a video, so let's get cracking on this. We'll pull the seat off, very easy. Next we'll pull the tank off. Looks like we have some of these little plastic pull tab items here, 4 of them. This will come off and we'll figure out the rest. So you take off these plastic pieces around here, a whole bunch of those little pop off clips. Of course the center one, 2 bolts up underneath there, 1 bolt on the back. Pull these out. There is a snorkel piece that goes right here and into the air box. You got to take that off. And now our tank should be about ready to come out. And I think I should be able to get it out without taking this whole front plastic off. Of course, I've shut the fuel off here. So we just need to find out, you know what, that probably has to come off too, it looks like. There's probably a Phillips screw head in there. That'll come off. And then we just have to follow the fuel line and disconnect that. Make sure you shut the fuel off before you take it off. The tank came out quite easily. Although, like I said, you did need to take this selector valve off, and you're going to need a very long screwdriver to get in there. So that's all, just a Phillips screw head, and that'll come out. And now you got pretty nice access to the carburetor. You could probably get to this without pulling the tank off, but you know, might as well while you're in here, and then you can clean stuff up. There's there was sticks and leaves and stuff under here. I already blew that all out. So now we're going to take the air box off. I think there's probably a Phillips head screw, yep, right there. Sorry, the light's not very good. And then the one on the front, we'll get this loose, and then we'll disconnect the throttle cable and the choke once it's loose. There's your choke cable disconnect. I think that's a 14 millimeter. Yeah, look at that. Got it right. Now, this is a commonly broken item right here because this is plastic, this plastic nut. And some manufacturers make a metal one that I've seen people replace these with, which makes it nice. But just be careful when you take your carburetor out that you don't, you know, thrash it about too much, because it's very easy to break these. Then plastic threads will break off right inside the body of the carburetor. Let's see, there was a drain hose right on the bottom on the bowl. I disconnected that. And then there's also, not sure what this little electrical doodad is here, but we're going to unplug that. I'll look that up later. And then here's our throttle cable. Usually I can rotate the throttle up, pop that thing out of there, and then we're going to have to pull this off with a 10 millimeter. And since we're replacing the cables, this would be a nice time. I should be able to route them out and then route the new ones back in before we put this all back together. Now I was told this carburetor was replaced, so I don't know why it wasn't just cleaned, but claimed that purchased a new carburetor. And the fuel doesn't smell too bad, but I also heard that lets it sit for a while. And that's the worst thing you can do, is let a vehicle sit with fuel in it. So if you're doing that, I highly recommend that you stop, Either shut off the fuel if possible and run it until it dies, or if you can locate your fuel drain like that, shut off the fuel and drain the fuel out of it, because letting fuel sit in these things for even a month is going to cause problems similar to what we're having here, where this thing is running but not running great. The fuel doesn't look terrible inside of here, but I'm willing to bet that we will find some clogged jets under here. So we'll pull this apart, see what we got. This is interesting. Got like a little plug on that one. Well, we'll see. So right down in that middle orifice is where our pilot jet is, and yeah, you can't see through it. So we will clean that up. Sometimes I have a guitar string that I use to clean that out. You can take apart a copper stranded wire and use that. That works pretty good. But we'll take all the jets out, clean it. The carburetor overall looks pretty good, but it doesn't take much to make these things refuse to idle, you know, only run on choke. About 99% guaranteed that's what our problem is with this. Okay, there. Hopefully I put the light behind this here. You can see through there. Sorry for blinding you. But we cleaned that out, so that should be helpful. We're going to clean the rest of this up a little bit, just with some carb cleaner. The carburetor actually looks really good, so this was probably our major issue here for why it's not idling and running without the choke on. But we'll clean the rest of it up, take a good look at it, and reinstall it. Reinstalled the carburetor, the air box. I ran the new throttle cable and the new choke cable. Now, sometimes these things can be a pain. So what I like to do is disconnect the old one, tape the new one to it, and then just pull it right through. That worked pretty good. We got everything hooked up, and I ran my little auxiliary fuel cell here. So let's turn it on, pull the choke, let's see what happens here. Oh, look at that, we're already running without the choke on, which it wouldn't do before. Beautiful, see? Something as simple as that barely clogged up pilot jet is what causes issues like this. So, like I said, shut the fuel off, run it till it stops, or, let's see, it's not on this side, but it will be on this side. Drain your float bowl. There's the float bowl drain right there. And it drains out of that little tube, so you could put a little catch pan under here to catch it, or a rag or whatever to get the remaining gas out of the carburetor if you're going to let it sit for any more than a couple days. Just do it, because otherwise you'll be paying someone like me, or doing it yourself if you're watching this video. Hopefully that's why you're watching it, so you can learn how to do stuff like this. But that's great. Yeah. All right, so we will move on to doing the front brakes. Like I said, I've already done these cables, and if you end up having to do them, especially on a quad like this with all these racks and plastic and stuff, it's a real pain. But we got them routed through here pretty good just by pulling a new one attached to the old one with some masking tape. I started a video for this here to show, you know, just how to do the brake bleed, which it's the same as doing any other brake bleed. You fill up the master cylinder, pump it, open the bleed screws. But then I started to think about it, and the guy I got this from said that he put all new brake components on it. He said he put new slave cylinders inside here, and these wheel bearings feel really tight. I don't know if that's how tight they're supposed to feel, but I also wonder if possibly he didn't adjust the brake shoes inside of here. I see you can adjust them right here, but I think what I'm going to do first is I'm going to pull off the outer wheel hub here, the drum, and just take a look and see if the slave cylinder's opening up inside of here when I pulse the brakes with the handle, because I bled it a little bit. You know, I started the video and I was bleeding it. No air's coming out of here. Everything seems fine, so I wonder if it's possibly just not set up properly. If those don't expand far enough, well, it'll never it'll never work. So we'll pull that off and just take a look. There you go. Everything looks brand new in here and well greased up. And watch this here. You see it moving? Everything is moving, so I think our problem is that we're not making contact on the inside of the brake drum here. So without that pressure to push back, it'll never bleed out. So I will adjust these, and you adjust them through this little hole right here. Put this back on, and then you turn these they call them like star adjusters or whatever. You can adjust those with a screwdriver. I'll probably adjust them a little bit right now before I put it on, get a little bit of contact on it, and we'll see how it feels. And we'll do the same on the other side. Okay, sure enough, that was it. Let me see if I can do this with one hand here. So you can turn it. Now I'm pulling in. I'm starting to feel a little bit of resistance finally, just right at the end of the travel, but this is just one wheel. And there you go. So once I adjust this other brake, hopefully that should get us some pedal feel, some handle feel, some brake feel, and then I can continue to bleed it, and that should do it. One thing I didn't mention was how to adjust these. So it's on the bottom on this side and on the top on this side, and there's actually an arrow. You can see inside of there, there's an arrow that shows, turning it outwards, and that's what opens it up. So I turned them both a couple times, and then I would focus on one of them, and I'd turn it while I was turning the hub here. And then once I started to feel some drag, I turned it a little bit more, which would usually like almost stop it. And then I backed it off a couple little serrations on that. And now that I've adjusted both, look at that. We've got solid already. So I'll bleed them a little bit more, just in case. And then get this tightened back up, put the cotter pin, put the wheels back on. All the new cables are installed, routed, and even got a nice new little rubber bit here. He went all out. This is one of them kind of guys who likes to do preventative maintenance, because none of the cables look bad, but you know what? I just looked this thing up. Was it a 2001? So it's 20 years old. So better safe than sorry, I guess. But sometimes I'm pretty cheap. I don't know if I would have replaced every one of those cables, but that's a smarter move than me, so who am I to say anything? And now we just got to test everything, make sure the brake cables are adjusted correctly. There's a cable here for reverse. Push this in, pull that to engage reverse, so I got to make sure that's adjusted. There's adjustments right here for that. And actually that thing feels really loose, so maybe I better check that. But other than that, went back together, no extra parts, no missing parts. Life is good. Well, she went together no problem, runs good, everything works. I had to adjust the handbrake just a little bit, and then I, of course, adjusted that reverse cable I showed you. But nice, simple, air-cooled, single-cylinder Honda, just the way that a lot of people love these Hondas. They don't make too many of them anymore that are like this, but you know, if you find one, these things seem to have a pretty good reputation of being reliable, so pick one up if you want one. Okay, if you're enjoying my content, give me a thumbs up, leave a comment down below, and if you are not already a subscriber, please consider doing so. Thank you very much for watching. Get out there and find your adventure. Adios.